So, welcome to this discussion here, to this presentation. My name is Elmar. I'm in the management team of Bare.ID, and I'm happy to see you all here. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to our panel here with digital sovereignty. It's nice to see you all because it's definitely a topic that resonates. What we see, digital sovereignty is all over in the discussion, and what I love to give you is some customer insights today. Why customer insights? Well, I brought 3 different surveys with me that I'm happy to share with you with different customer perspectives around digital sovereignty. It will not be something like what should you buy. It's more about what do customers think and what is the current situation around digital sovereignty, mainly in Germany. So, what you might also have seen is May 19th, where the Microsoft has thrown the chief prosecutor of the International Court out of their Microsoft email system, so he was not able to get any information anymore. That was something that also went through the press, and as Heise called it, it is an awakening call for digital sovereignty. However, you all might have seen yesterday, our armed forces in Germany is using Google Cloud. So, what is it about? So on the one side, we see that Microsoft was forced by the Trump administration to throw the chief prosecutor out of their system. So we see that there is a lot of power from Microsoft on the one side. On the other side, we see that even armed forces in Germany is using Google Cloud as their cloud system. So what is it about? And my talk will also be around make sure that you're talking about or seeing the right facts. On the one side, we are talking about an email system. That is surely a critical system because the chief prosecutor has written on Monday, so that happened on the weekend, and on Monday he wrote that he's unable to work because he has no access to his email anymore. But think one step further when we talk about identity and access management, single sign-on. That would mean he has or Microsoft has the power, if you are using Microsoft products or other US products, then the Trump administration would be able to throw you out of your complete IT systems if everything is running around single sign-on. However, we see quite some examples for digital sovereignty initiatives in Europe. There is first the Open Euro-LLM project with 37 million to build up an AI LLM that is based on European technology. We also see IRIS², a complete satellite system to be independent from other states than European countries. We also see Docs as an idea, a collaboration software against Google Cloud that we see here. And of course, India is another example for digital sovereignty. It's not only European against the rest of the world. It's also all states that are really building their own digital sovereignty initiatives. And there we see a complete independent web browser that they are building. Shortly, in some words, what is this digital sovereignty? It became popular and it started at least in 2013 with Mr. Snowden and the NSA case, where the first people started to think about what does it mean, digital sovereignty? And there are mainly 3 areas that we have to talk about. First is technology, then of course regulation from the state side, and then digital competence. By the way, if you would like to have the slides, I have a barcode just at the end of the presentation. Ping me and I'm happy to send you the slides. You don't have to take notes or make photos. You can do, of course, because then I'm on the slides too, but however, you do not need to. And the idea of digital sovereignty is for sure freedom of choice, to give you the choice that you are able to make your own decisions and decide to move away from vendors. You can decide to choose different technologies and mix it up as you would like to do. Self-determination in the same case, and self-control, and of course security. These are the main aspects that we'll dig into and that these surveys were about. So the key elements of digital sovereignty is, first of all, control over your data. So you should stay in control of your data, and what we see is GDPR as one of the keystones in Europe that enforces you to even have your rights, and even outside Europe to enforce your rights. That is also tied to the regulatory authorities who make sure and who take care on this digital sovereignty in case that you personally are not able to take care there. And then we have the technological independence, and we are on the tech show here. So therefore, of course, it's about technology, which one to choose, which one perhaps not to choose, or a mix. And there is always something that where we think it makes sense to really look at the data that you store somewhere. When we dig into this armed forces case using Google, well, the discussion is, what is the data that are they storing, from my point of view? There is a high discussion or big discussion currently going on in social media since yesterday. How could that happen that our armed forces is using now technology from the US? And the answer is quite simple. In a lot of ways, technology from US, and we'll see that in the surveys, is far advanced. So you have to use it, but you can use your own brain to make sure that you're not storing every kind of data there, and that you're using it in the way that it needs to be used. Also, if you use Active Directory, why not? You can use it for your internal systems if you are sure that perhaps if it's not available or you're thrown out, that well, you can continue working, and additionally you can use another identity access management system for your suppliers or for other use cases like external customers that is accessing your systems, or even for your mission critical systems. No need to use an Active Directory there if you want to get it. So it's not about black and white, there is always a gray zone, and that's also what we saw in our surveys. Resilience and security, always a very important point. We know that the US has a lot of legal constructs where legal entities, even without a judge, are able to get access to data, even without letting you know that they got access to it, and therefore if you are aware of that, why not use these tools? There is no need to change the complete landscape. There are some cities in Germany and also other organizations who try to move completely away from US products, and they had to move back in a very short period of time because you want to use state-of-the-art technology, and in many cases this is US technology. But it's also about open standards. When we talk about open standards, it's also about interchangeability, and open standards also because you are able to really look into information that is shared. You are able to make your mind around what is the technology about. That is also open source, but we'll dig into that. These are just some of the different hyperscalers that we see, and I think I'm not telling you anything you haven't heard before, but the US hyperscalers are dominating the market. We see that there are no new data centers built, or mainly not built as we see here, but we see that the capacity is growing. So that means the existing hyperscalers, dominated by the US mainly, are scaling up, and that's also what we see here. The data center capacity, Q4 2024, is 54% in the US, and there is a very small portion, 15%, that is in US. I will share with you 3 studies. First is the Bitkom study. There were 603 people interviewed, and well, the big findings is imports. We see that 96% of the digital services came from abroad. It's not Europe who is producing it. It's mainly end devices, of course, 90%. It's also software. 75% of the software that European companies are using are coming not out of Europe. Where are they coming from? Well, we see we have some regions, 87% are using software though, out of Europe, but main software is used out of USA and China. That are the main countries where software is coming from. And 60% of the German companies who answered said they are expecting a German dependence on imports to increase over the next years. So more than half said, well, we think we are dependent, but we will be more dependent in the future. 9% of the customers are strongly or somewhat dependent on foreign partners, and 92% believe that the German economy is too dependent. However, they are unable to change it in most cases, but they are dependent. Everyone knows that. I think these are facts that might resonate with your view that you personally do have. And also 78% are concerned about the political dominance of the USA. I think we all know the news, and calculability and the possibilities to predict behavior of political systems is something that is very important, and USA seems not to be, as the survey said, in this way. Then the second study that I will share with you is the CIO study. And there was 308 people surveyed, and they made their mind around the usage, and sovereign cloud is not established. That's what they see. When you calculate it together, then we have around about 80% of people who are really thinking about sovereign cloud or are talking about sovereign cloud. However, only 26% are currently using the sovereign cloud. 22% additionally are evaluating it, and 36% said they are in the planning phase to have digital sovereignty in the future, or tools for digital sovereignty. However, quite interesting, what we see is the satisfaction is very high. So from the ones who are using digital cloud or evaluating it, 88% are really satisfied, very satisfied, and medium-sized companies share really incredible 96% of satisfaction. They say we are very satisfied with the solution that is there. From the timing side, also very interesting, when the question was, when is your company planning to move over? We have 230 people asked this question, and the answer is during the next 6 months, 23%, and additionally during the next 12 months, 45%. So that means more than half is going to move during the next year or during this year to a sovereign cloud provider, trying to have business also there. And then, of course, we also have our own study with our customers. 180 people were asked there and worked together with us on the survey, mainly, I said, our customers. And we asked about what is the measurements that you are taking to go to digital sovereignty. Having Bare.ID is one idea, but what are the other ones? The big topic is, of course, supplier diversification. Makes sense, choose a supplier where you're not depending on the political system or others. But what is the selection criteria? So 73 people said, well, supplier diversification is one topic. Out of them, 92% said data sovereignty is the key topic. Choosing a European provider is 62%. So they are also looking at other systems outside Europe, where they are not really depending on their system. And then open source, also an interesting thing. 53% of the customers said, we are looking into open source. We don't want to be dependent on one supplier. We want to have the freedom of choice, especially not a vendor lock, when using highly critical IT systems, like IAM systems, for example. And then we do see open APIs and no vendor lock as a big reason to be able to intercept. And that's also a very important topic when talking about identity access management system. If you use the big vendors in the identity access management single sign-on space, then they have their own interfaces. So moving to another vendor is really critical and not possible in the most cases, or costs really much, because they have not their own or they implemented their own tweaks of open standards, what make it quite highly uninteresting to move to other things. Also a vendor lock that people are talking about. And then risk management, of course, that is also there. And the state of the development of sovereign cloud technologies is also not seen that far advanced. So we see that major that we see really a major, mature solution from a sovereign cloud solution, only 38% see that, and advanced is kind of 49%. So overall, more than half of them think that the technology is advanced enough to be used, but there is also potential to be more advanced. And only 4% think that it's still in early stages, so a technology that can be used. Digging a little bit more into these details of the surveys, what we see is what types of digital imports are we having, and on the other side, what are we exporting? And as said in the beginning, what is absolutely clear and came out of this survey is Europe is not exporting, especially Germany is not exporting that much, but we are importing a massive amount, especially digital services. More than 50% of digital services are imported. Digital machinery, and especially when you look at cybersecurity, what is by sure a critical topic, then around about 70% is here imported from abroad. And when we see about what are we exporting, well, that's not that much. In cybersecurity, only around about 10% that is exported. So yes, it can be said Europe and Germany is an import nation when it comes to digital technology. However, why do European identity management solutions in particular, but it also is tied to other solutions, is struggling? Why is not everyone using that kind of technology? Well, there are a couple of reasons that we also found during our survey. There is a very fragmented regulatory landscape. People think, well, in Germany, these are the rules. In Spain, there are other rules, and. So there is not a clear direction where to go and which technology now really to use. A lot of customers would love to have a clear direction, given also from the regulation, saying which tools can we use, what should we use, and are we then compliant to the necessary laws and regulations that we do see. Then we have, of course, a limited market scale. For sure, European is smaller than the rest of the world, and especially the US market is very, very dominant. So a lot of companies think using the solution that has 33% market share must be the best solutions, because not everyone is failing. So you can't do anything wrong if you use the biggest market player. And mainly European companies are smaller, and therefore it's not that big market scale. And that is also the competition from big tech. They are loud. Everyone knows that there is a Microsoft solution for identity access management. That there are other solutions around, yeah, perhaps. You can see the reports from analysts and others, but that there are nice companies like Bare.ID, a lot of companies don't know that, because we can't be as loud as the big tech companies, especially from the US, because they have different marketing budgets, they have a lot of other ways to go, and then people don't know that, for example, Bare.ID is used with a Kongstar with 4 million entities and users. We are supporting companies or entities like Bavaria, the pupils that go there to their school every Monday morning. It's a high test for performance that we works, and there we are talking about 20 million users. But that is not known because we can't be as loud as others in the market. Slow innovation cycles is something that also is seen in the market. We don't see that. However, the market is seeing this because the US companies have the reputation that they are innovative like hell, that these are the big rock stars. And, well, other companies are not seen in Europe as innovative as they definitely are. And then, of course, we see the trust and adoption barriers because using the biggest vendor might be the right choice, and adopting other solutions, there is a low public awareness of these kinds. You have to decide if these are the real arguments, or perhaps if you dig around and see if there are other solutions that might work. Then we asked, what are the probably biggest challenges for your company when implementing a sovereign cloud solution? And by far, it is the topic of high costs. Everyone is afraid, and there are rumors in the market that European solutions are more cost intensive than other solutions, than the US solutions. calculate it. That is the only advice that I can give you. Really take all costs into account. Mainly European solutions have a very decent price list, perhaps 3 different tiers, and that's it. US companies tend also to have a price list of pages, and that means calculate all the costs and not only the first page. Read the price list until the end, please. Complexity of transactions, integration with existing systems, and qualified personnel. These are mainly the topics. Of course, if you are the market leader, and again, I'm quoting Microsoft here, then everyone knows how to work with these tools. And there are rumors in the market that European solutions are more complex because they are different. Give it a try. Really see it on your own. What we see in the market with digital sovereign solutions is that they are even easier to use because they are more focused. They have not a zoo of different functionalities that you are unable to use and that you have to buy, by the way, that are more focused and really online with the functionality that European companies are mainly taking. Security concerns, even though also there companies are doing a good job when giving you the information that security is far advanced in companies abroad. We have strong laws in Europe, so this is also something that you have to think about, how security is implemented in Europe without any backdoor, without any need to have backdoor from a legal side. And that is a big advantage why European solutions are also used on other countries highly. Regulatory hurdles, that's true. European is really special when it comes to regulatory hurdles that the companies do see there, and also the internal resistance. There is always someone who thinks, take the market leader and don't think about anything else. Another survey put it also in this way: regulatory compliance complexity in Europe is quite high, so European companies try to elaborate everything in detail, while companies from abroad have the tendency to make it easy. It's the most secure solution, trust us, others are doing this in the same way, go for it, is very often what we hear, and that's something that is, of course, also different. Data localization requirements, well, if you are needing a solution that is not only tied to European market, then of course it also needs to be localized. What we also see is a limited provider ecosystem. The big tech companies in especially the US are working very well together. In Europe, what is very often happening is that partnering is not their first choice. So mainly the tech companies are working in their main ecosystem, not trying to share their minds with others, not trying to really work together. And open source could be one solution there, open standards, to really work together and be able to have a bigger ecosystem. Because to be sure, customers want to have one solution and not one solution from one provider. They want to have their security, for example, and then they want to have a bench of different technologies that needs to work together, and saying, well, we are not responsible for that as a small vendor does not make sense in any way. Operational overhead, and of course things like security, usability trade-offs, same way as the vendor lock-in risk that is there. These are the main topics that we saw during our survey. Then we asked the question, why has a company implemented sovereign cloud solution? Why have you done that? So we talked about the downsides, now coming to the chances that customers see. And the main topic with 56% is security and data protection reasons. Well, of course. You are not doing that because you have enough time to spare and you have enough time to do things. You are doing it to achieve a goal. Also 38% said it is an independence from the commercial cloud providers. We want to be a little bit more independent. What are the key criteria? Well, it's the trust into the providers, for sure. That is one of the main reasons, and the technology expertise that customers do see, and that where we have a lot of experts here in Europe. And smaller companies have additionally the big advantage that you dig very fast to the experts. No need to hide experts, because small companies consist mainly of these kind of experts, and that also what is very, very much seen. A little bit of practical steps, what to do. Now, perhaps you are a little bit more advanced, hopefully, from digital sovereignty and the possibilities to take the steps. So what should you do? First of all, really assess the legal requirements. Make your mind around what do you need to do, what are you forced to do? Because what we see is that a lot of companies are not aware of their legal requirements, and then there are high fines and others where they have a problem, or at least they got hacked perhaps, or have other downsides, what costs a lot of money. So it makes sense to assess first of all the legal and regulatory requirements. Coming out of that, of course, you have first of all to define a strategy. You of course can start with some lighthouse projects and try to implement something, but it makes more sense, as in the beginning of my talk, that I advise you to really think about what are the data that are critical, what are the systems that are critical that you want to have digital sovereign, and then build your strategy around it. And please also think about existing systems like IAM systems or single sign-on systems, multi-factor authentication, because it's a key for your technology and for the access. And if that does not work, or you are dependent from other technologies, then that might cause big problems in your day-by-day work. And then, of course, we have you have to choose sovereign cloud and infrastructure providers. You have data localization policies to implement. Most of you might have done that, I'm pretty sure. So using data centers out of Europe and not data centers out of the US, making that for sure. And then cybersecurity measures, strengthen and enable transparency. These are all things that have to come. And don't forget to educate teams and align with your stakeholders in the company, because that is always, transformation is always a big topic to share and to do. So, chances and risks are obviously there. We talked about that in detail. So now we have kind of 5 minutes to talk about it. As I promised, if you want to get the shares, feel free to ping me, and I'm happy to share the slides with you and also the survey in detail if you are interested here. And now it's time for questions. So 5 minutes to go. Perhaps the one or the other want to know more. Otherwise, I can continue talking for days without breathing. No worries. Everything clear? Anyone who perhaps has implemented digital sovereign solutions and would like to share their mind?
It's a nice session to open our eyes around sovereign cloud, right? The sovereign cloud is definitely, it is increasing its demand in Europe, specifically for the data protections. We see customers, specifically high regulatory customers, they are looking for the sovereign cloud. But as you said, the maturity of the sovereign cloud is not at par to the hyperscalers that today in the market, like AWS, Azure, Google, right? So that is the big challenge. And of course, the tariffs, it's imposing a lot of cost impacts that we have to look at. But we have very minimal knowledge on the European service providers or the software providers who can mitigate these issues, and this is one of them I can say. So a lot to learn.
Let's continue to talk afterwards, of course. What we see is Bare.ID is a company that was founded out of a bigger mother company, AOE. AOE is a company out of Wiesbaden, also a German company who is doing consulting services. And what we saw is we did always consulting services around the open source stack of Keycloak. And in this way, we found that a couple of years before it makes sense to really put together everything in one box and call it Bare.ID. So there is an open source stack underneath. But AOE is also, and they share, because they are quite big, their minds with us also in the same way like you did. They built a lot of initiatives around digital sovereignty. They are explaining companies about their tech stack. They have an initiative where you can freely check your tech stack around and see what's better. Or they have a big initiative around AI, where they are talking about or educating companies around how to use AI in a secure way with a digital sovereign stack, because you do not need really to have the US market leaders. You also can use a European tech stack without any problem, but it depends on your needs. And this is something where you can't put it on one paper, so one paper slide where everything is listed how to do it. It's really depending on your needs and what you need, and there AOE, our mother, is also doing a great job in educating people around that. Resonates very well with what you have said. Absolutely. So, we have to close the talk. However, thanks a lot for your big interest around digital sovereignty. We have our booth just around here. So AOE, Bare.ID, you will find it, I'm pretty sure. And I would love to continue talking to you one by one around the challenges and the chances that you do have. Thanks a lot for your time, and have a nice fair.